The gavel came down like a shot from a small cannon. I had been in courtrooms before, back when I worked as a paralegal for 3 years after college, and I knew that sound meant finality. But this time it felt personal. It felt like a door slamming on my life. Mrs. Connolly, you have 30 days to remove your belongings from the residence at 1427 Maplewood Drive. The court finds in favor of the petitioner, Elaine Whitmore, rewriting the estate and all joint assets. You are re-entitled only to your personal effects. Elaine sat at the plaintiff's table, her back straight as a fence post, wearing that pink suit she had bought for my wedding 10 years ago. The same suit. She had worn it to my wedding, and now she wore it to my undoing. The PRLS at her throat caught the fluorescent light. She did not look at me. She looked at the judge, her eyes soft, grateful, the way you look at someone who has just done you a very large favor. I had seen that look before. I had seen it when she talked my husband into signing over the deed to the lake house. I had seen it when she convinced my mother-in-law to change her will 6 weeks before she passed. Elaine was good at that look. It was the look of a woman who had never had to scrub a toilet in her life. Your Honor, I said, and my voice right across the quiet room. I could hear a janitor pushing a mop somewhere down the hallway. The clock on the wall ticked. I counted 3 ticks before the judge looked up from his papers. May I ask a question? Judge H.A. Risen was a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses and a habit of pressing his lips together when he was annoyed. He pressed them now. The rules of this court allow for closing statements, Mrs. Connolly, not cross-examination of the bench. It is not a question about the law. I stood up from my chair. The wood creaked under me. It is a question about a woman named Clara Morrison. The judge went pale. Not pale like someone who was riled. Pale like someone who had just been told the house was on fire. His pen dropped from his fingers and rolled across the desk. I watched it fall to the pet. He did not pick it up. Elaine turned her head slowly. Her necklace caught the light again. Her mouth opened, then closed. Clara Morrison, I said again. She used to work at the admissions office at Westbrook Academy. She was your son's teacher's aide for 3 years. Do you remember her, Your Honor? The courtroom was still full of people. Elaine's lawyer, a heavy man in a gray suit who smelled like cigar or smoke even from 10 feet away. The court reporter, a young woman with red hair and a bored expression that had suddenly shifted to something more alert. 2 clerks at the side desk. A bailiff with a mustache and a silver badge. They all read at the judge. He read his throat. I do not see the relevance of this line of questioning. Her relevance is that she told me everything. I pulled a manila envelope from my tote bag. The paper crinkled as I held it up. She told me about the scholarship fund. The money you took from the children. The money you funneled to your son's tuition. The judge's hands went to the arms of his chair. His knuckles were white. That is a serious accusation. It is not an accusation, Your Honor. It is a documented fact. I have bank statements. I have signed withdrawal slips. I have a sworn affidavit from Clara Morrison herself, signed and notarized, dated 3 weeks before she passed away. Elaine stood up. Her chair scraped against the floor. Your Honor, this is outrageous. This woman is desperate. She will say anything. I turned to look at my sister-in-law. Her face was flushed now, a pink that did not match her suit. Her eyes were harrowed. I had seen that look too. It was the look she gave waiters who brought the wrong order, the look she gave the gardener when the hedges were uneven. It was the look of a woman accustomed to getting what she wanted. Clara was my neighbor for 3 years, Elaine. She lived in the condo next to mine. She used to sit on the porch with me in the evenings and drink iced tea. She had lung cancer, and she did not have long. She told me things because she wanted someone to know. Someone to hold the truth after she was gone. Elaine's lawyer leaned over and whispered something to her. She shook her head. She was trying to summon her composure. It was not working. Judge H.A. Risen pressed the button on his desk. The bailiff stepped four-way road. I am going to ask you to approach the bench, Mrs. Connolly. I walked four-way road. The carpet was worn thin under my feet. I had been walking the same carpet for 3 days of hearings, 3 days of sitting in the hot wooden chairs while Elaine's lawyer presented documents that made my life look like a list of failures. The mortgage payments I had fallen behind on when my husband lost his job. The credit card debt we had accumulated during his illness. The account withdrawals I had made for medical bills that Elaine insisted were extravagant. I placed the envelope on the bench. The judge read at it. His hand hovered over it, then pulled back. Where did you get this? His voice was low, barely audible. From the bank, Your Honor. CLARA gave me the account numbers. I requested the records. You had no legal standing to request those records. I had standing as a concerned citizen. I also had standing as a woman who had just been stripped of everything she owned. But that part I did not say out loud. I let him draw his own conclusions. Elaine was on her feet now, walking toward the bench. Her heels clicked against the floor. Your Honor, this is a desperate fabrication. My brother's widow is clearly unhinged. The judge held up his hand. She stopped. He opened the envelope. I watched his face as he read the first page. The color drained further. His eyes moved down the paper. Then he looked at the second page. His mouth fell open, just slightly, a gap of surprise that he quickly closed. Mrs. Connolly, he said, his voice steady but quieter than before, where is the original of this affidavit? I have it. I kept it safe. I have copies too. Copies for the state BAR, copies for the district attorney. Copies for the local newspaper. Elaine's breath caught. She reached out and grabbed my ARM. Her fingers were cold. You wouldn't. I pulled my ARM away. I did not raise my voice. There was no need to raise my voice. The room was so quiet I could hear the fluorescent bulbs humming. Let me tell you what I know, Elaine. I know that you and Judge H.A. Risen have been friends for 20 years. I know that his son was in your book club. I know that you donated $5,000 to his re-election campaign last year. I know all of this because you were not as reeful as you think you were. The judge sat back in his chair. He took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. I could see the tremor in his hands. A man in his late 60s, tired, maybe sick, maybe just afraid. I did not feel sorry for him. I had spent 3 days watching him nod along while Elaine's lawyer painted me as a spendthrift wife who had drained her husband's bank accounts and neglected his CARE in his final months. None of that was true. Daniel had been sick for 2 years, leukemia. The kind that sneaks up on you and takes you before you know what hit you. I had worked double shifts at the nursing home to pay for his treatments. I had sold my CAR. I had emptied my retirement account. And when he died, Elaine swept in and told the court I had been negligent. She told them I had spent his insurance money on vacations. I had never taken a vacation. I had not left the house for more than an hour at a time in 2 years. The judge looked at me. His eyes were pale blue behind his glasses. What do you want, Mrs. Connolly? I want what I came for. I want my house. I want my husband's pension. I want the CAR that his mother left to us in her will. The will, Elaine said. Her voice was sharp. The will that you coerced out of her when she was confused and medicated. The judge looked at her. His expression had shifted. I could not read it, not yet, but the old alliance was cracking. I could see it in the way he did not nod along with her this time. My mother-in-law was Shah-Rp's attack until the day she died, Elaine. She knew exactly what she was doing when she gave the house to Daniel and me. She knew because she had spent 40 years watching you try to take everything from your brother. You took his record collection. You took the family silver. You took the lake house. And when Daniel got sick, you tried to take my husband's dignity. The bailiff shifted on his feet. The court reporter's fingers had gone still on her keyboy road. Nobody was writing anything down. The judge folded his hands on the bench. Mrs. Connolly, this matter is adjourned until I have had time to review these documents. He looked at Elaine. Ms. Whitmore, I would suggest you remain in town for the next few days. Elaine's face went from pink to white. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Her lawyer had risen from his chair. He was already reaching for his briefcase, already calculating his odds, already looking at the door. I walked back to my seat. The wood was still warm. I sat down and let my knees stop shaking. I had been planning this moment for 4 months. 4 months of visits to CLA's apartment, 4 months of sorting through old bank statements and torn receipts and handwritten notes. 4 months of learning that the judge had a gambling habit and a mortgage he could not afford and a son who had been expelled from 2 prep schools for selling prescription drugs to younger students. The judge did not know that I knew about the gambling. Not yet. I was saving that for later. Elaine walked past me on her way to the door. She paused. Her perfume was expensive. Chanel, maybe. The kind that filled her room and lingered long after you left. She leaned down and spoke in my ear. You think you have won something. I looked straight ahead. I watched the court reporter packing her bag. I watched the bailiff fold his arms. I won the truth, Elaine. That's more than you have ever had. She straightened up. Her heels clicked away. The door swung shut behind her. I stayed in my seat for a long moment. The judge was still at the bench, reading through the envelope. His face was gray now, a color that made him look older than I remembered. He would retire. He would have to. The gambling debts alone would finish him if they came to light. The scholarship fund embezzlement would send him to prison. I did not want him to go to prison. I wanted him to sign an order restoring my property. I wanted him to write a letter to the state bar admitting to a lapse in judgment. I wanted him to recuse himself from all future cases involving estate disputes. That was enough. That was justice. I picked up my tote bag and walked out of the courtroom. The hallway was long and white and smelled like floor wax. A janitor leaned on his mop and watched me pass. The courthouse clock struck noon. I counted the chimes. Outside, the sun was bright. The steps of the courthouse were warm under my feet. I sat down on the stone railing and let the heat soak through my coat. I was not the same woman who had walked into that room 3 days ago. That woman had been afraid. That woman had been tired. That woman had been poor and grieving and alone. I was still alone. But I had the envelope. And I had Cla Roscoe sitting on the porch beside me, drinking iced tea and telling me that the truth was always worth knowing. Car pulled up at the curb. A blue sedan with a dented fender. The window rolled down. Need a ride, Ma'am? It was the clerk from the side desk. The younger one, with the kind eyes. I did not know his name. I did not need to. I got in the car. He did not ask me where I was going. I told him the address of my mother's house. She had been gone for 5 years, but the house was still mine. The only piece of property I truly owned. The sedan pulled away from the courthouse. I did not look back. There was nothing behind me that I wanted to see. The blue sedan pulled up in front of my mother's house. It was a small bungalow on a quiet street, the kind of house that had seen better decades but still held its own against the weather. I thanked the clerk and he nodded and drove off without waiting for a reply. That was the kind of man he was, the kind who did small kindnesses and moved on. I stood on the sidewalk and looked at the house. The paint was peeling on the window frames and a rose bush had grown wild over the front porch. My mother had planted that rose bush the year my father left. She used to say that roses needed neglect to thrive, that too much attention made them soft. She had been a practical woman. She had raised me to be practical too. The key was still under the loose brick by the front step. I turned it in the lock and stepped inside. The air was stale and heavy with the smell of old wood and dried flowers. My mother had been gone 5 years, but the house felt like she had just stepped out to the market. Her knitting basket was still by the iron chair. The calendar on the wall still showed the month she died. I sat down on the couch and let the silence settle around me. My hands were still trembling. I pressed them flat against my knees and took long, deep breaths. The courthouse was 10 miles behind me and the judge was probably still staring at those documents in his chambers. I had done what I had come to do. But I had not done it cleanly. There was no clean way to tell a man you knew he had stolen from children. The phone on the end table rang. I let it ring 4 times before I picked it up. It was a rotary phone, old and black with a coiled cord. My mother had refused to get a cordless. She said they sounded like tin cans on a string. The voice on the other end was Elaine's. She had always been good at getting phone numbers. You think you were clever, she said. Sitting in that courthouse with your little envelope. You think you have outsmarted me. I am not clever, Elaine. I am just persistent. There is a difference. You are a fool. You have no idea what you have stepped into. I pulled the cord around my finger and watched it coil back. Tell me what I do not know. I have plenty of time. She laughed. It was a short, sharp sound, like a branch snapping. Daniel was not as innocent as you think. He knew about the house. He knew about the will. He knew that his mother was changing things. He never stopped her because he wanted the same things I wanted. The cord went still around my finger. Daniel never wanted anything from his mother. He loved her. He loved her money. He just hid it better than I did. Do you know why he married you, Claire? He married you because you were the only woman who did not ask about his inheritance. You were the one who made him look generous by comparison. I pressed the phone against my ear outside, and neighbor root a lawnmower. The sound buzzed through the window like a trapped insect. That is not true. It is true. And I can prove it. I have letters he wrote to his mother. Letters asking her to change the will. Letters asking her to leave everything to him and not to me. She kept them. She gave them to me before she died. I remembered those letters. I had found them in his desk after he passed. I had thrown them out because they seemed ordinary, just a son writing to his mother about his health and his worries. I had not read them fully. I had been too tired to read anything fully in those days. What do you want, Elaine? I want you to tear up that affidavit. I want you to withdraw your accusations against Judge Risen. I want you to walk back into that courthouse tomorrow and tell them you made it all up. You know I cannot do that. You can. You just have to decide whether you more about your pride or your safety. I pulled the cord tight. Is that a threat? It is a promise. There are people who rely on the judge's goodwill. People who would not be happy if he lost his position. People who have more money than you and me combined. They will come after you, Claire. Not with lawyers. With everything. The lawnmower stopped. The silence was thick enough to cut. I have nothing to lose, Elaine. That is what you do not understand. Daniel is dead. My mother is dead. I do not have a job anymore because I spent 2 years taking care of a dying man. I do not have savings. I do not have friends who will invite me to dinner. I have only this house and the truth. You cannot threaten someone who has already lost everything. She was quiet for a long moment. I heard her breathing on the other end, shallow and quick. Then I will give you something to lose, she said. I will come for the house. I will come for your mother's house. You cannot. It is not part of the estate. It was never in Daniel's name. It is in your name. And I can make your life so difficult that you will beg me to take it off your hands. I will find inspectors. I will find lien holders. I will find every tax deficiency and code violation. I will bury you in paperwork until you cannot see daylight. I hung up the phone. The rotary clicked back into place. I sat in the quiet and let her words settle. She was capable of all of those things. I had known her long enough to know that she did not make idle threats. She had filed 3 lawsuits against her own neighbors over property lines. She had gotten a contractor blacklisted for refusing to rebuild her patio. She had connections and money and the time to use both. I walked into the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. It was empty except for a jar of pickles and half a carton of milk. The milk had expired 6 months ago. I threw it in the trash and made myself a glass of water from the tap. The water tasted like copper, but I drank it anyway. The kitchen table was covered in mail that I had not opened. Bills and flyers and magazines addressed to my mother. I sat down and started sorting through them. Most of them were junk. A catalog for orthopedic shoes. A solicitation from a funeral home. A donation request from the local library. But one envelope caught my eye. It was thick, cream-colored, with a return address that I did not recognize. The name on it was Daniel's. He had always used the same kind of stationery, the heavy cotton paper that felt expensive even when you were just holding it. I opened the envelope. Inside was a single page, typed, dated 6 weeks before he died. It was addressed to a law firm in the next county. I read the first line. Then I read it again. My hand started shaking. I put the paper down and walked to the window. The rose bush was swaying in the breeze. The neighbor had started his lawnmower again. The letter was a request. Daniel had asked the firm to prepare a new will. In the new will, he wanted to leave everything to Elaine. Every asset. Every account. Every piece of property except the house that had belonged to my mother. That house, he wanted to leave to a distant cousin I had never met. It was not the part about Elaine that stunned me. It was the part about the cousin. Daniel had never mentioned any cousin. He had never mentioned any relatives outside his immediate family. I had sat with him through 2 years of hospital visits and late-night conversations, and not once had he spoken about a cousin. I picked up the letter again. The firm was real. I recognized the name from a billboard I had seen on the highway. The letter was signed by Daniel in pen. His signature was shaky, his hand had been weak toward the end, but it was unmistakably his. The lawnmower stopped again. I went back to the phone and dialed the number on the letterhead. A receptionist answered on the first ring. I am calling about a letter, I said. A letter that a client sent to you 6 weeks before he died. His name was Daniel Connolly. I am sorry, ma'am. We cannot discuss client matters over the phone. My husband is dead. I am his widow. I need to know if you read the will he requested. There was a pause on the line. I heard typing. Then the receptionist came back. I see the file. But I cannot shall read any details without proper authorization. You the executor of his estate know. His sister is the executor. I am the person who is being shut out. The receptionist's voice softened. I am sorry to hear that. But I still cannot shall read the information. You would need a court order or written consent from the executor. I thanked her and hung up. I had known it would be a long shot. But the letter had confirmed something that I had not wanted to believe. Daniel had been planning to leave me with nothing before he even got sick. He had been planning it all along. But he had gotten sick before he could finalize the new will. And the old will, the one that left everything to me, had remained in place. That was why Elaine had gone to court. That was why she had accused me of negligence and incompetence. She was not just greedy. She was trying to undo a legal document that her brother had never managed to sign. I went back to the table and looked at the letter again. There was something else on the back. A handwritten note in the margin, small and tight. Daniel's handwriting. Claire will understand. She never wanted the money anyway. She wanted me. I read at those words until they blurred. He had been right. I had never wanted the money. I had wanted him. I had wanted to be married to a man who laughed at my jokes and made breakfast on Sundays and held my hand in the dark. That was all I had ever asked for. And he had known it. He had known it and he had used it against me. He had written that note knowing that I would not fight for what was rightfully mine. He had counted on my love to make me weak. I folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. I walked out to the front porch and sat in my mother's old rocking chair. The wood creaked under me. The rose bush was full of blossoms, pink and white, crowded together like they were fighting for space. A car came down the street. It slowed in front of the house. A white sedan, new and shiny, with tinted windows. It stopped at the curb and the driver's door opened. Elaine stepped out. She was wearing a different suit now, gray with a cream blouse. Her hair was pulled back tight. Her sunglasses were dark and expensive. I did not get up from the rocking chair. I just watched her walk up the path. She stopped at the bottom step and looked up at me. You hung up on me, she said. I did. I came to give you one more chance. One more chance to do the right thing. I rocked the chair back and forth. The rose bush brushed against the railing. There is a letter, I said. A letter Daniel wrote to a law firm. He asked them to change his will. He asked them to leave everything to you. Her face did not change. She had expected this. She had known about the letter all along. He never signed the new will, she said. That is the problem. He got sick before he could finalize it. And now the old will stands. The one that leaves everything to you. So you came to court and told them I stole from him. I told them the truth. You did spend his money. You did run up debts. You did neglect his CA. I spent his money on his treatments. I ran up debts because the hospital would not accept his insurance. I stayed by his side every single night. You never visited him once. Elaine stepped up onto the porch. She was close enough that I could smell her perfume. The same Chanel. She never changed. Your love is not going to save you, Claire. Your love is going to bury you. You are going to spend the rest of your life defending yourself against people who do not see about love. I do not see about love. I never have. That is why I win. I looked at her. She was right about one thing. I had never been good at the game. I had never understood that mariage was a negotiation and family was a battlefield. I had believed that honesty and kindness were enough. I rocked the chair again. The wood creaked. You do not win, Elaine. You just keep scoring points. There is a difference. She turned and walked back down the steps. Her heels were silent on the grass. She got into her white sedan and drove away without looking back. I sat on the porch for a long time after she left. The sun moved across the sky. The shadows lengthened. The rose bush rustled in the evening breeze. I thought about Daniel and the letter and the law firm. I thought about the cousin I had never met. I thought about my mother, who had taught me that roses needed neglect to thrive. Maybe I had been neglecting myself for too long. Maybe it was time to grow. The next morning I drove to the county records office. It was a squat brick building on the edge of town, the kind of place where time moved slowly and the fluorescent lights hummed the same note all day long. The woman at the front desk was knitting a purple scarf. She did not look up when I walked in. I asked for the property records on my mother's house. She pointed me to a room in the back with rows of dusty filing cabinets and a microfiche machine that looked older than me. I spent 2 hours pulling files and reading deeds and tax assessments. Everything was in order. The house was mine, free and clear, no liens, no encumbrances, no outstanding taxes. Elaine had threatened to bury me in paperwork, but she had not sta root yet. She was still waiting for me to blink. I sat at the metal table and sta read at the papers. The air smelled like old paper and floor wax. I thought about Daniel and the letter and the cousin I had never met. It was time to find out who that cousin was and why Daniel had wanted to leave my house to a stranger. I drove to the law firm the next county over. It was a glass building with a waterfall in the lobby and a receptionist who looked like she had just stepped out of a magazine. She asked if I had an appointment. I told her I was the widow of Daniel Connolly and I needed to see his file. She read through a door and came back with a man in a navy suit. He introduced himself as Mr. Bennett. He was young, maybe 30, with a firm handshake and a smile that did not reach his eyes. He led me to a conference room with a polished table and leather chairs. The windows looked out over a parking lot. I cannot discuss client matters without proper authorization, Mrs. Connolly. I know that. But my husband is dead. I am the executor of his old will, the one that is still valid. You can discuss the matter with me. He studied me for a moment. His fingers tapped the table. Under certain circumstances, I can share information with the executor. But I was under the impression that his sister was the executor. She is. But she is not the executor of the old will. I am. That will is still the legal document. The new will was never signed. He leaned back in his chair. His expression shifted from professional to curious. I was not expecting this complication. Neither was I. I pulled out the letter Daniel had sent. I placed it on the table between us. He wrote to you 6 weeks before he died. He asked you to prepare a new will. He asked you to leave everything to his sister, except for my mother's house, which he wanted to leave to a cousin I have never met. He picked up the letter and read it. His face was unreadable. He put it down slowly. We did prepare the new will. We had it drawn up and ready for his signature. But he never came in to sign it. We called him several times. He kept postponing the appointment. Why? He said he was sick. And then he was too sick to travel. We offered to send a notary to his home. He declined. I leaned for a road. He declined because he changed his mind. Mr. Bennett raised an eyebrow. Are you suggesting that your husband changed his mind about the new will? I am suggesting that he loved me. I am suggesting that he was dying and he had a moment of CLA righty. I am suggesting that he decided not to cut me out of his life. He was quiet. The waterfall in the lobby was audible through the walls. I heard a phone ringing somewhere. The cousin, I said. Who is he? Mr. Bennett opened a file on the table. He is a distant relation. His name is Roger Morrison. He lives in Colorado. He is a contractor, I believe. He had no contact with your husband for many years, but they reconnected through some genealogical research. Genealogical research. That is what the letter says. Your husband was interested in his family history. He discovered this cousin and decided to include him in his will. I thought about Daniel. He had never once mentioned genealogy. He had never mentioned a family history. He had been indifferent to his ancestors, dismissive even. When my mother died and left me her china, he had asked why anyone would read about old plates. This does not sound like my husband. Mr. Bennett shrugged. I am just telling you what is in the file. The intention was clear. He wanted to leave the house to Roger Morrison. But he did not sign the will. He did not. And since the old will is still valid, the house belongs to you. But I will be honest with you, Mrs. Connolly. His sister has already called me. She wants me to testify in court that your husband expressed a clear intention to change his will. She wants me to say that the old will does not reflect his final wishes. I looked out the window. The parking lot was filling up with cars. A man in a red jacket was walking a small dog across the asphalt. Will you testify to that? I asked. I am bound by attorney-client privilege. I cannot testify about anything he told me in confidence. But I can testify that he requested a new will and that he signed a consultation agreement. That is public record. I nodded slowly. Elaine would use that. She would stand in court and point at Mr. Bennett and tell the judge that Daniel had wanted her to have everything. The judge would listen. He might even believe her. Can I see the file? I asked. I cannot give it to you. But I can read you a few sections. He flipped through the pages. Your husband described his assets in detail. He was very thorough. He listed the house, the pension, the savings accounts, the life insurance policy. He mentioned you by name in the section about exclusions. Exclusions. He wrote that he wanted to exclude you from any inheritance. He wrote that you had been provided for during his lifetime and that you did not need his assets after his death. I sat back in my chair. The leather creaked. Daniel had written that. He had sat down with this young lawyer and told him that I did not need anything. He had been sick and tired and afraid, and he had still found the energy to exclude me. The waterfall burbled. The dog in the parking lot barked at a pigeon. Did he say why? I asked. Mr. Bennett hesitated. He looked down at the file. He said that you had your own house. Your mother's house. He said that you would be comfortable there. He said that you had never been materialistic and that you would understand. I laughed. It was a short laugh, hollow in the quiet room. He said I would understand. He said that. And what about his sister? Why did he want to give everything to her? He said she had been loyal. He said she had always been there for him. He said she deserved to be revived. I looked out the window. The pigeon was gone. The dog was still there, sniffing at a fire hydrant. Loyal. Elaine had been loyal. She had called him twice a week and sent him flowers and driven him to his appointments. I had done all of those things too. I had been there every night. I had held his hand when he vomited. I had changed his sheets. I had sat with him in the dark and told him stories to help him fall asleep. But I had not been loyal. I had been loving. There was a difference. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. I think I have heard enough. I stood up. He stood too. He walked me to the door and opened it for me. His face was still unreadable, but there was something in his eyes, a flicker of something that might have been pity. Bca refill, Mrs. Connolly. His sister is not someone to underestimate. I walked through the glass lobby and out to the parking lot. The sun was high and hot. I got in my car and sat for a moment with my hands on the wheel. The asphalt shimmered. The waterfall inside the building was a constant hum. I drove home. The house was quiet. I went to the backyard and sat on the old wooden bench where my mother used to read her mysteries. The roses were blooming. The fence was overgrown with ivy. I thought about Roger Morrison. I thought about a contractor in Colorado who had never met Daniel but had been written into his will. I wondered if he knew about me. I wondered if he had been waiting for a phone call. I called information and asked for the number. The operator found it. I dialed and listened to it ring. A man answered. His voice was gruff, like he had been outside all day. Hello, Mr. Morrison. My name is Claire Connolly. I am Daniel Connolly's widow. There was a pause. Then he said, I figured someone would call eventually. You knew about the will. I knew he was thinking about it. He wrote to me last year, told me he was changing things. Wanted to leave me his house. His house, not my mother's house, that is what he said. The house on Maplewood Drive. The one that was left to him by his mother. I sat down on the bench. The wood was rm. The house on Maplewood Drive was Elaine's now. She had won it in the court case. It was the property I had been ordered to vacate. He left that house to you. He said he wanted to give me a fresh start. He said his family never treated me right. I did not ask for it. I just told him I would appreciate it. I could not speak. Daniel had left the house to a cousin in Colorado. Not to me. Not to Elaine. To a man he had really known. Mr. Morrison, did Daniel ever mention me? He mentioned you once. He said you were a good person. He said you deserved better than what you got. I looked up at the sky. A plane was flying overhead, small and white against the blue. Did you ever meet him? We met once. He came to Colorado for a business trip. We had dinner. He talked about his family. He talked about his mother. He talked about his sister. He never mentioned you by name, but he mentioned someone he said he had wronged. I think he meant you. I thought about Daniel. I thought about the man who had laughed at my jokes and held my hand in the dark. I thought about the man who had excluded me from his will and then told a stranger that he had wronged me. He never told me that he probably could not. Some things are too hard to say to the people you loved. I thanked Mr. Morrison and hung up. I sat on the bench until the sun went down. The roses turned dark in the twilight. The ivy rustled against the fence. Elaine had won the Maplewood house. But Daniel had not meant for her to have it. He had meant for a cousin to have it. He had meant for me to have nothing. But I had my mother's house. I had the bench. I had the roses. And I had a new understanding of the man I had married. He was not a villain. He was not a saint. He was just a man who had been afraid and confused and trying to make sense of a life that was ending. I went inside and poured myself a glass of water. The kitchen was dark. I did not turn on the light. I stood at the window and looked out at the street. A car was parked at the curb. A white sedan. Elaine's car. I stepped back from the window. I did not know how long she had been there. I did not know what she wanted. I watched the car for a long moment. It did not move. The engine was off. The windows were dark. I went to the front door and locked it. I checked the back door. I checked the windows. Then I sat in my mother's armchair and waited. The car stayed until midnight. Then it pulled away, slow and silent. I watched its taillights disappear around the corner. I did not sleep that night. I sat in the chair and thought about Roger Morrison and the Maplewood house and the will that had never been signed. I thought about Daniel and the letter and the words he had written in the margin. Claire will understand. He had been wrong about that. I did not understand. I was not sure I ever would. I spent the next 3 days in a fog. The CAR had not come back. The phone had not rung. The house had settled into its usual creaks and groans, and I had settled into a chair by the window with a cup of tea that went cold before I remembered to drink it. On the 4th morning, I found a letter in the mailbox. The envelope was cream-colored with a return address I did not recognize. I opened it standing on the front step, the morning sun on my shoulders. The letter was from Roger Morrison. He had written it on thick paper, the kind that felt expensive. His handwriting was blocky and ca-refill. Dar Claire ***. I have been thinking about our phone call. I do not know you and you do not know me, but I feel like we shall re something. We both knew Daniel. We both were party of his plans. I have decided to come to town. I want to meet you in person. I want to talk about the house on Maplewood. I want to understand what happened. ***. I will be arriving on Friday. I will call you when I get in. Please do not be afraid of me. I am not here to take anything from you. I am here to find out the truth. Sincerely, Roger. I read the letter 3 times. The truth. I was not sure I knew what that was anymore. I was not sure I had ever known. Friday came faster than I expected. I spent Thursday cleaning the house, sweeping the floors, dusting the shelves. I was not sure why I was cleaning for a man I had never met. It was something to do. Something to keep my hands busy and my mind quiet. The phone rang at 11 on Friday morning. It was Roger. He was at the train station. He asked if he could come over. I said yes. He arrived in a rental car, a gray sedan that looked too clean for the gravel driveway. He was taller than I expected, with a weathered face and gray hair cut short. His hands were rough, the hands of a man who worked with them. He carried a leather satchel over his shoulder and a small bouquet of flowers from the gas station. He handed me the flowers. They were daisies, yellow and white, tied with a ribbon that had come undone. I did not know what to bring, he said. I thought flowers were safe. They are. Thank you. I led him into the living room. He looked around at the faded furniture and the worn rug. His eyes lingered on the photographs on the mantelpiece. My mother. My father. A picture of Daniel and me on our wedding day. He stopped in front of that picture. He studied it for a long moment. You look happy. We were happy. For a while. He sat down in my mother's armchair. I sat across from him on the couch. The daisies were on the coffee table between us. I had not put them in water yet. He opened his satchel and pulled out a folder. I have brought some things. Daniel sent me letters. He sent me documents. He told me things that I think you should know. I leaned forward. What kind of things? He opened the folder. The first page was a copy of a letter. I recognized Daniel's handwriting. Dar Roger ***. I am writing to you because I do not know who else to trust. My wife is a good woman. She has been kind to me. But she does not understand the family history. She does not understand what my mother did. My mother was a difficult woman. She favored my sister. She gave Elaine everything. She gave me nothing but scraps. When I married Claire, she was angry. She said Claire was beneath us. She never accepted her. ***. I have made mistakes. I have hurt people. I have let my mother's cruelty shape me. I am trying to change. I am trying to be a better man. But I am running out of time, asterisk asterisk if something happens to me, I want you to have the house on Maplewood. Not because I do not love Claire. Because I do. And I want to make sure she does not have to live in a house that my mother poisoned. I want her to be free, asterisk. I read the letter twice. My hands were shaking. The words blurred and came back into focus. He wanted to set me free. Roger watched me read. He did not say anything. He waited. I put the letter down. He wrote this before he got sick. He wrote it 6 months before. He was still healthy then. He was still thinking clearly. I thought about the letter Daniel had sent to the law firm. The letter asking them to prepare a new will. The letter excluding me from everything. I had believed it was a betrayal. I had believed he did not love me. But this letter said something different. This letter said he loved me so much that he wanted to protect me from his mother's legacy. He called you a good woman, Roger said. He said you deserved better. He said that to you. He said it several times. He was proud of you. He was proud that you had married him despite his family. I looked at the daisies. They were wilting already. The ribbon had come completely undone. Then why did he write to the law firm? Why did he ask them to prepare a new will that left everything to Elaine? Roger sat back. He ran his hand over his chin. He was thinking. He was trying to figure out how to say something difficult. He was read, Claire. He was dying. He was surrounded by his sister, who had always gotten what she wanted. He was afraid that if he left you everything, she would take it from you. She would tie you up in court for yours. She would ruin you. So he changed his plan. He gave her what she wanted on paper. But he left the house to me. A stranger. Someone outside the family. Someone she could not bully. I read at him. The letters. The law firm. The unsigned will. It was all connected. He tried to protect me from her. He did. He knew her better than anyone. He knew what she was capable of. I stood up and walked to the window. The rose bush was in full bloom. The petals were pink and white, clustered together like they were holding on to each other. She was parked outside my house the other night. Roger did not look surprised. She is watching you. She is waiting for you to make a mistake. What kind of mistake? Any kind. She has lawyers. She has money. She has connections. She is looking for a reason to come after you. I turned from the window. What do I do? Roger stood up. He walked over to me. He was close enough that I could see the lines around his eyes, the calluses on his hands. You fight, he said. You fight with the truth. The letters I brought. The documents. They prove that Daniel wanted to protect you. They prove that Elaine was not his chosen heir. She was a contingency. An insurance policy. The doorbell rang. I jumped. My heart pounded in my throat. I walked to the door and opened it. Elaine stood on the front step. She was wearing a black dress and sunglasses. Her hair was pulled back tight. Claire. I need to talk to you. I stepped aside. She walked into the living room. She stopped when she saw Roger. Who is this? Roger Morrison. He introduced himself. He did not offer his hand. Elaine's face went pale. She recognized the name. The color drained from her cheeks and she stepped back, one hand reaching for the doorframe. You are the cousin. I am. She turned to me. Her eyes were harrowed. You brought him here. You brought him into this. He came on his own, Elaine. He brought letters. He brought proof. Proof of what? Proof that Daniel was protecting me. Proof that he never intended for you to have anything. She laughed. It was a sharp, brittle sound. He intended everything. He wrote to the law firm. He asked them to prepare a new will. He wanted to leave everything to me. He wanted to leave the house to me, Roger said. He wanted to leave the rest to you. He wanted to give you what you wanted so that you would leave Claire alone. Elaine sta read at him. Her mouth opened. Her composure cracked. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded document. I have the new will, she said. I have a copy. I found it in Daniel's desk after he died. It is dated and it is witnessed. He signed it in front of two people. I looked at Roger. He looked at me. He shook his head slowly. That is not possible, he said. The law firm told me the will was never signed. Elaine's face was triumphant. She held the document up. The law firm is wrong. Daniel signed it at his home. He had 2 nurses witness it. He sent it to me the day before he died. My legs gave out. I sat down on the couch. The world tilted and spun. The daisies were a blur of yellow and white. He signed it. He signed it. He left everything to me. The house on Maplewood. The pension. The savings. Everything. Roger walked over to Elaine. He took the document from her hand. He read it ruefully. His face was unreadable. This is not the will the law firm read, he said. This is a different document. Elaine snatched it back. It is legal. It is signed. It is valid. It is not valid if he was coerced. If he was not of sound mind. If he was medicated and confused. He was not confused. He was clear as day. He told me he wanted me to have it all. He told me I had been a good sister. Roger turned to me. His eyes were full of something I could not name. Pity, maybe. Or anger. She is lying, Claire. She has to be lying. I stood up slowly. My legs were steady now. The shock was fading, replaced by something colder. Why are you doing this, Elaine? Why do you need everything? She looked at me. Her eyes were empty. The emptiness of a woman who had never been told no. Because I deserve it, she said. I have always deserved it. Daniel knew that. Our mother knew that. You are the outsider. You are the one who does not belong. I walked to the door and opened it. I think you should leave. She walked past me. She paused at the door. She looked back at Roger. You should go back to Colorado, she said. There is nothing here for you. She left. The door clicked shut behind her. I leaned my forehead against the CL wood and closed my eyes. Roger put his hand on my shoulder. His hand was warm and heavy. We will find a way, he said. We will fight her. I opened my eyes. I looked out the window. Elaine was getting into her car. She did not look back. I believed her, Roger. I believed the will was real. It might be real. But that does not make it right. Daniel was sick. He was red. He was surrounded by her influence. We can prove that. I turned away from the door. I walked back to the coffee table and picked up the daisies. I took them to the kitchen and put them in a glass of water. The petals were already browning at the edges. She will not stop, I said. She will never stop. We will make her stop, Roger said. We will find a way. I looked at the daisies. They were dying in the glass. The water was cloudy. I did not know if we would find a way. I did not know if there was a way to win against a woman like Elaine. But I knew I could not give up. Daniel had given me that. He had given me the will to fight. Roger stayed the night. He slept on the couch with a blanket my mother had knitted 30 years ago. I lay in my bed and read at the ceiling, listening to the house settle around me. The furnace clicked on and off. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere outside, a dog barked twice and went silent. I did not sleep. I went over the afternoon in my head. Elaine standing in my living room with that folded document in her hand. The triumph in her voice. The way she had looked at Roger like he was a bug she wanted to squash. The next morning I found Roger in the kitchen. He had made coffee. He had found the old percolator in the back of the cubby RD and figured out how to use it. He poured me a cup without asking. We need to see the nurses, he said. The ones who witnessed the will. I wrapped my hands around the mug. The RMTH seeped into my palms. I do not know their names. Daniel never mentioned them. Then we find them. He sat down across from me. He had a notebook open on the table. He was writing things down, organizing his thoughts. What hospital was he in at the end? Memorial. The oncology road. We go there today. We talk to the staff. We find out who was on shift the day he signed. I drank the coffee. It was strong and bitter. My mother had always made coffee the same way. She said weak coffee was a sin. I do not know if they will talk to us, I said. Privacy laws. They might not give out information about patients. We do not ask for information about patients. We ask for information about witnesses. We ask if any of the nurses remember a dying man signing legal documents. That is not private. That is a memory. I nodded. It was a plan. A thin plan, but a plan. We drove to Memorial Hospital. The building was tall and white, surrounded by parking lots and dying trees. I had spent so many hours in this place that I knew every corridor, every elevator, every vending machine. I knew the smell of the cafeteria and the sound of the intercom and the way the light fell across the waiting room floor. We found the oncology RD on the 4th floor. The nurse at the station had gray hair and kind eyes. She had been there for 20 years. She remembered Daniel. He was a nice man, she said. Quiet. Polite. He never complained. I leaned on the counter. Do you remember the day he signed a will? She looked at me. Her eyes narrowed. I remember a woman coming in. His sister. She brought papers. She asked us to witness something. She asked you or he asked you? She asked us. He was too weak to ask for much. He was asleep half the time. She was very persuasive. Persuasive, Roger said. The nurse nodded. She said it was important. She said he wanted it done before he died. She said she would take care of everything. I looked at Roger. He was writing in his notebook. The pen scratched across the paper. Who witnessed it? I asked. Two of us. Me and Jennifer. The night nurse. Can we talk to Jennifer? She works nights. She will be here at 7. We thanked her and walked away. We sat in the waiting room and watched the clock. The minutes crawled. The fluorescent lights hummed. I counted the tiles on the ceiling. At 7, Jennifer arrived. She was younger, with a ponytail and tired eyes. She recognized me from the months I had spent at Daniel's bedside. Mrs. Connolly. I am sorry about your husband. Thank you, Jennifer. I need to ask you something. Do you remember witnessing a will for him? She looked down at her hands. She was holding a coffee cup from the cafeteria. Her fingers were wrapped around it tight. I remember. His sister brought it. She told us he was too weak to ask for witnesses himself. She told us he wanted it done. Did Daniel ask you to witness it? She hesitated. I saw something flicker in her eyes. Doubt. Or guilt. Or maybe just exhaustion. He was asleep, she said. His sister woke him up. He looked confused. She put a pen in his hand and guided it to the paper. He signed. He did not say anything. He just signed. I sat down in the plastic chair. The armrest was cold under my hand. He did not ask you himself. No. She asked. She told us he had already talked to his lawyer. She told us it was legal. We believed her. Roger stepped forward. His voice was calm. Did he say anything at all during the signing? Jennifer thought about it. Her eyes went to the ceiling. He mumbled something. It was hard to hear. But I think he said her name. Claire. He said Claire's name. The waiting room spun. I gripped the armrest. He said my name. Yes. He said it once. And then he looked at his sister and shook his head. But she was already holding his hand. She was already guiding the pen. I stood up. My legs were shaky. Thank you, Jennifer. You have helped more than you know. We walked back to the car. The parking lot was dark. The lights from the hospital windows cast long shadows across the asphalt. He was coerced, Roger said. He was drugged and confused, and his sister put a pen in his hand. I opened the car door and sat down. I closed my eyes. The image of Daniel in that hospital bed came back to me. He had been so thin. So pale. His eyes had been hollow. He had not recognized me some days. But he had recognized me at the end. He had said my name. He had shaken his head. He tried to refuse, I said. He tried to refuse, and she forced him. Yes. She forced him. And now we have proof. Proof. 2 nurses who witnessed a signing that Daniel did not initiate. A document that he signed while medicated. A sister who had everything to gain and nothing to lose. We drove back to the house. Roger made more coffee. I sat at the kitchen table and read at the wall. The daisies were dead now. I had not changed the water. What do we do with the proof? I asked. We take it to a lawyer. A good one. Someone who specializes in estate law. Someone who can challenge the will. I do not have money for a lawyer. Roger sat down across from me. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a checkbook. I have money. Daniel made sure I had money. He left me a small inheritance before he died. It was not part of the estate. It was a separate transfer. I read at the checkbook. He left you money. He said I might need it. He said I might need to help you. He was planning for this, Claire. He knew his sister would try something. He left me the means to fight her. The TRS came then. I had not cried in weeks. I had not allowed myself to cry. But the TRS came hot and fast, and I could not stop them. He loved me, I said. He really loved me. He did, Roger said. He loved you very much. That is why he made sure you would not be alone. The next morning we found a lawyer. Her name was Patricia O'Neill. She was a tall woman with silver hair and sharp eyes. She practiced estate law in a small office above a bakery. The smell of bread drifted through the floorboards. We told her everything. The nurses. The signature. The coercion. The letter Roger had brought. The documents from the law firm. She listened without interrupting. She wrote notes on a yellow legal pad. This is strong, she said. Not ironclad, but strong. The fact that the witnesses were not asked by the testator himself is significant. The fact that he was medicated is significant. The fact that he said your name and shook his head is significant. We can win, I asked. We can challenge. We can petition the court to set aside the new will and enforce the old one. It will take time. It will take money. It will take testimony. I looked at Roger. He nodded. We have the money, he said. We have the testimony. Patricia leaned back in her chair. She studied us over her glasses. There is one more thing. The original will, the one from the law firm, was never signed. That means your old will, the one that leaves everything to you, is still valid. It never stopped being valid. Elaine had to get the court to recognize the new will. She had to prove that it was valid. If we can prove that it was coerced, the court will throw it out. My heart pounded. So I get everything back, you get everything back. The house on Maplewood. The pension. The savings. The insurance. Everything. I looked at Roger. He was smiling. It was the first time I had seen him smile. We celebrated with pastries from the bakery downstairs. I ate a croissant that was flaky and Roger had a Danish. We sat at a small table by the window and watched people walk past on the street. But I could not stop thinking about Elaine. She did not know about the nurses. She did not know we had talked to them. She did not know about Patricia. She was still driving around town in her white sedan, thinking she had one. I finished my croissant and wiped my fingers on a napkin. We need to tell her, I said. Tell her what? Tell her we are refighting. Tell her we have proof. Tell her she cannot keep the house. Roger shook his head. That is not a good idea. She will fight, Ryder. She will fight anyway. She will always fight. But if she knows we have proof, she might back down. She might settle. Patricia came over to our table. She had heard what I said. She sat down in the empty chair. She is right, she said. A settlement is always preferable to a trial. If we can show Elaine that we have witnesses and documentation, she might agree to walk away. She might agree to uphold the old will. I do not know if she will walk away, Roger said. She is not the type. Then we force her hand, Patricia said. We file the petition. We serve her with papers. We make her come to court. We finished our pastries. We walked out of the bakery into the afternoon sun. The street was busy with shoppers and children and dogs on leashes. It was a normal day. It was a day like any other. But I was not the same person who had walked into that bakery. I was stronger. I had proof. I had allies. We drove back to my mother's house. Roger parked in the driveway. I got out of the car and looked at the rose bush. The petals were falling now. The summer was ending. Elaine's car was parked across the street. She was sitting in it, watching us. She did not get out. She just watched. I walked across the street. I walked up to her window and knocked on it. She rolled it down. I know what you did, I said. I know about the nurses. I know Daniel did not consent. I know you forced him. Her face was pale. Her eyes were cold. You cannot prove that. I already have. The nurses are willing to testify. I have a lawyer. I have a petition. I am coming for you, Elaine. I am coming for everything. She read at me. For a long moment, she did not speak. Then she rolled the window up and root the engine. She drove away. I watched the white sedan disappear around the corner. Roger came up behind me. She will not give up, he said. I know. But neither will I. The days that followed were a blur of paperwork and phone calls. Patricia filed the petition on a Tuesday. By Thursday, we had a court date. Elaine's lawyer responded with a motion to dismiss, which Patricia shot down with a stack of affidavits from the nurses. The motion was denied on Friday. The trial was set for the following month. I spent the week in a state of quiet dread. I cleaned the house again. I weeded the garden. I painted the front porch steps, a job my mother had been meaning to do for years. The physical work kept my hands busy and my mind from wandering into darker places. Roger stayed. He said he wanted to see it through. He slept on the couch and made coffee in the mornings and talked to me about Colorado and his contracting business and the mountains he could see from his kitchen window. I listened and nodded and pretended I was not counting the days until the trial. On the Saturday before the trial, I received a call from Patricia. She said I needed to come to her office. There was something she wanted to show me. I drove over. The bakery was closed. The street was quiet. Patricia's office was on the second floor, and the stairs creaked under my feet. She was waiting at her desk with a manila folder in her hands. I have been doing some digging, she said. I found something interesting. She opened the folder. Inside were copies of bank statements. Elaine's bank statements. How did you get these, subpoena? She is being sued by the estate. I had a right to review her financial records. I looked at the statements. They went back 3 years. At first, everything looked normal. Deposits from her job at the real estate agency. Withdrawals for groceries and utilities. The usual. But then I saw something strange. LARG deposits, regular deposits, every month. $5,000 Rs. From an account I did not recognize. What is this? I asked. I traced the account, Patricia said. It belongs to a trust. A trust set up by Daniel's mother. I looked up from the papers. His mother set up a trust. It was for Elaine. Daniel's mother established it 20 years ago. It was meant to provide her with an income. But the trust has been paying out more than it was supposed to. Elaine has been drawing funds that were not authorized. I read at the statements. The deposits were there every month, like clockwork. $5,000 Rs, 40,000 over the Rs, 60. 80. It added up. She was stealing from her own mother's trust. She was overdrawing. The trust was supposed to pay out a fixed amount. She figured out a way to take more. She forged signatures. She created fake invoices. She claimed expenses that did not exist. My head spun. Elaine had been taking money from her mother's estate for years. She had been stealing while Daniel was sick. She had been stealing while I was scraping together coins for his treatment. She was already rich, I said. Why did she need to steal? Patricia shrugged. Greed does not always make sense. Sometimes it is not about the money. It is about control. It is about getting away with something. I sat back in my chair. The papers blurred in front of me. Elaine had lied about everything. She had lied about the will. She had lied about the trust. She had lied about Daniel's wishes. She was trying to frame me for neglect, I said. She was trying to take everything. Yes. And she was doing it while stealing from her own mother. I looked at Patricia. Her eyes were steady. She was waiting for me to understand the full picture. If we present this in court, I said, she is finished. She is finished. But there is a catch. What catch? If we present this, she will not just lose the estate. She will lose everything. She could face criminal charges. She could go to prison. I thought about that. I thought about Elaine in her pink suit and her PRLS. I thought about her sitting in a courtroom, not as a plaintiff, but as a defendant. I thought about the look on her face when the gavel came down. Is that what you want? Patricia asked. I did not answer. I did not know what I wanted. I had spent so long hating Elaine that I had forgotten what it felt like to feel anything else. Can I think about it? I asked. Take all the time you need. The trial is still 2 weeks away. I drove home in a daze. Roger was on the porch, reading a paperback. He looked up when I got out of the car. What happened? I told him. I told him about the trust. I told him about the forged signatures. I told him about the possibility of prison. He closed his book. He did not say anything for a long moment. Then he stood up. She deserves it, he said. She has been taking from everyone for years. She took from your husband. She took from his mother. She took from you. I know. But prison, she stole thousands of dollars. She falsified documents. She committed fraud. That is not a small thing. I sat down on the porch steps. The wood was warm under me. The rose bush was losing its leaves. Autumn was on its way. I never wanted to destroy her, I said. I just wanted my house back. She made her own choices. You are not destroying her. You are just exposing the truth. I thought about that. I thought about Daniel and the letters and the new will. I thought about the nurses and the signatures and the look in Elaine's eyes when she drove away from my house. She always wanted to win, I said. She wanted to win so badly that she was willing to hurt everyone. And now she has to face the consequences, Roger said. That is not your fault. That is hers. The next day I went to see Patricia. I told her we would present the evidence. I told her I was ready. She nodded. She did not smile. She just wrote something down in her notes. The trial sta route on a Monday. The courtroom was the same one where Elaine had won her initial judgment. The same judge. The same bailiff. The same worn pat and humming lights. But this time, I was the plaintiff. This time, Elaine sat at the defendant's table. She wore the pink suit again. She wore the PRLS. But her face was drawn and her eyes were hollow. Patricia presented the nurse's testimony first. Jennifer and the older nurse, whose name was Marga Rhett. They told the court about the day Daniel signed the will. They told the court that his sister brought the papers. They told the court that Daniel was medicated and confused. They told the court that he said my name and shook his head. Elaine's lawyer tried to cross-examine them. He tried to suggest that their memories were faulty, that too much time had passed, that they could not be trusted. But the nurses were firm. They remembered. They would not be moved. Then Patricia presented the bank statements. The courtroom went silent. The judge leaned forward. He read through the documents briefly. Miss Whitmore, he said, can you explain these withdrawals? Elaine stood up. Her hands were shaking. I do not know what those are, Your Honor. I never authorized those withdrawals. But the account is in your name. The trust is in your name. The signatures are yours. She looked at the papers. Her face was white. Someone must have forged them, she said. Someone is trying to frame me. Patricia stood up. She walked to the witness stand with a folder in her hand. I have more evidence, Your Honor. A handwriting expert has read the signatures on the trust withdrawals with known samples of Ms. Whitmore's signature. The expert has concluded that the signatures are authentic. The judge looked at Elaine. His face was unreadable. Ms. Whitmore, do you have anything to say? Elaine looked at me. Her eyes were full of something. Hatred. Or fear. Or both. She did not speak. She sat down heavily in her chair. Her lawyer whispered to her. She shook her head. The judge turned to me. Mrs. Connolly, he said. In light of this evidence, I am prepared to set aside the new will and uphold the original will. The estate belongs to you. The house on Maplewood belongs to you. The pension and savings belong to you. I felt the tears coming. I blinked them back. Thank you, Your Honor. The judge turned to Elaine. Ms. Whitmore, I am referring your case to the District Attorney's Office for further investigation. You will be contacted regarding the charges of fraud and forgery. Elaine did not move. She sat in her chair like a statue. Her PRLS caught the light. Her pink suit was still crisp. I walked out of the courtroom. Roger was waiting in the hallway. He put his hand on my shoulder. It is over, he said. Not quite, I said. There is still one thing left. I walked back to the courtroom. Elaine was still sitting at the defendant's table. Her lawyer had left. The judge had left. The bailiff was gathering papers. I walked up to her. She looked up at me. Her eyes were red. I could have destroyed you, I said. I could have put you in prison. But you did not. I did not. I am not like you. I do not believe in destroying people. She read at me. She did not speak. I turned and walked away. I walked through the courthouse and out into the sun. Roger was waiting on the steps. I thought about Elaine and the trust and the prison she might face. I thought about the choices she had made and the people she had hurt. I thought about Daniel and the letters and the love he had tried to protect. I sat down on the steps. The sun was warm. The sky was blue. It was over. The courthouse steps were warm under me. I sat there longer than I intended, watching people come and go. Lawyers with briefcases. Families with tired children. A young couple holding hands, their faces full of the kind of hope I had not felt in years. Roger sat beside me. He did not say anything. He just waited. A man in a gray suit walked past and glanced at me. It was Elaine's lawyer. He did not stop. He did not meet my eyes. He just walked down the steps and read into the parking lot. She will fight the fraud charges, I said. She will drag it out. Probably. But that is not your fight anymore. I nodded. He was right. The estate was mine. The house was mine. The pension was mine. The battle I had come to fight was over. But I did not feel like celebrating. I felt empty. Hollowed out. Like I had spent so long fighting that I had forgotten how to do anything else. What do you do now? Roger asked. I do not know. I had not thought that far ahead. I had been so focused on winning that I had not planned for what came after. We walked to the car. I drove us back to my mother's house. The rose bush was nearly now, just a few stubborn leaves clinging to the branches. Autumn had arrived while I was not looking. Roger packed his things that evening. He said he had to go back to Colorado. His business was waiting. His life was waiting. I understood. He had already given me more than I had any right to ask for. You will be okay, he said. He stood at the door with his leather satchel over his shoulder. I will. Eventually. He hugged me. It was a brief hug, the kind you give someone you might not see again. Then he walked down the steps and got into his rental car. I watched him drive away. The taillights red around the corner. The street went quiet. I went inside and sat in my mother's armchair. The house was too quiet. The silence pressed in on me. I turned on the television just to hear voices. A king show. A woman was making a pie. She talked about crust and filling and the importance of cold butter. I fell asleep in the chair. I woke up hours later, stiff and cold. The television was showing static. I turned it off and went to bed. The next day I drove to the Maplewood house. It was the first time I had been back since the day the judge ordered me to leave. The house looked the same. The white siding. The blue shutters. The oak tree in the front yard that Daniel had planted when we first moved in. I walked up the steps. The key was still in my pocket. I had never given it back. I turned it in the lock and stepped inside. The house was empty. Elaine had taken everything. The furniture, the rugs, the dishes, the photographs. Even the curtains were gone. The windows were bare, letting in the cold autumn light. I walked through the rooms. The kitchen where Daniel and I had eaten breakfast. The living room where we had watched movies. The bedroom where he had died. It was all empty now. Stripped bare, I sat down on the floor in the middle of the living room. The hot roadwood was cold under me. I wrapped my arms around my knees and closed my eyes. I do not know how long I sat there. An hour. Maybe 2. The light shifted across the floor. The house creaked around me. Then I heard a sound. A car pulling into the driveway. I stood up and walked to the window. It was a white sedan. Elaine's car. My heart pounded. I watched her get out. She was wearing jeans and a sweater. No suit. No PRLS. She looked smaller without them. She walked up to the front door. She knocked. I opened it. We stood there for a long moment, looking at each other. Neither of us spoke. I came to say something, she said. Her voice was flat. Empty. The way someone sounds when they have run out of fight. What is that? She looked past me into the empty house. I am sorry. I read at her. The words hung in the air, strange and unexpected. You are sorry. I am sorry for what I did. She looked down at her hands. I was so caught up in winning that I did not see what I was doing. I hurt you. I hurt Daniel. I hurt everyone. I leaned against the doorframe. My legs were weak. Why are you telling me this? Because I have nothing left. The district attorney is pressing charges. My lawyer told me to plead guilty. I will probably go to prison. She looked up at me. And I wanted you to know that I know what I did. I am not making excuses. I just wanted to say it. I thought about all the things she had done. The lies. The forged signatures. The stolen trust. The manipulated will. The way she had stood in that courtroom and watched me lose everything. And yet, standing there in her jeans and her sweater, she looked like a different person. Not the polished, composed woman who had worn the pink suit. Just a tired woman who had run out of options. Do you want to come in? I asked. The house is empty. There is nowhere to sit. She stepped inside. She looked around at the bare walls and the empty floors. Her eyes lingered on the spot where the fireplace used to be. We sold the furniture, she said. I did. I thought I would keep the money. I knew. She turned to me. I can give you the money back. I can give you everything I took. It is not about the money, Elaine. It never was. She nodded. She seemed to understand that. She seemed to understand a lot of things that she had not understood before. I had to do something, she said. I had to see if you would let me in. I had to see if there was any humanity left in me. I looked at her. The woman who had been my enemy for so long. The woman who had tried to destroy me. The woman who was now standing in my empty house, asking for nothing but a moment of grace. There is humanity in you, I said. You just buried it for a long time. She smiled. It was a sad smile, the kind that did not reach her eyes. I buried it so deep I forgot where I put it. We stood in the empty living room. The afternoon light slanted through the bare windows. Outside, a bird was singing. It was a small sound, but it filled the silence. What will you do with this house? She asked. I do not know. Live in it, maybe. Sell it. I have not decided. She nodded. It is a good house. Daniel loved it. Daniel loved you too, Elaine. He loved you even when you made it hard. She looked away. I know. He was a better person than I ever was. We walked to the front door. She stepped out onto the porch. The oak tree was shedding its leaves. They drifted down in the breeze. You have everything now, she said. The house. The pension. The savings. What will you do with it? I stepped out beside her. I will keep it. I will use it wisely. I will do what Daniel would have wanted. She nodded. She walked down the steps to her car. She opened the door and looked back at me. Thank you, she said. For letting me in. For letting me say it. I watched her drive away. The white sedan Desape red around the corner, just as Roger's rental car had done the day before. I stood on the porch and looked at the house. It was empty, but it was mine. It was mine in a way it had never been before. Not because I owned it, but because I had fought for it and won. The next week, I moved back in. I bought a mattress and a table and a few chairs. I hung curtains on the windows. I put flowers on the table. The house felt different now. Lighter. Freer. I thought about Elaine. She had pleaded guilty to the fraud charges. The judge gave her probation and community service. No prison. I was relieved. I had not wanted her to go to prison. I had just wanted her to stop. I thought about Roger. He called once a week from Colorado. He told me about his contracting jobs and the mountains and the new dog he had adopted. I told him about the house and the garden and the slow process of putting my life back together. I thought about Daniel. I thought about the man I had married and the man he had become at the end. I thought about the letters he had written and the plans he had made. He had not always been honest with me. He had not always been kind. But he had loved me. In his own complicated way, he had loved me. The autumn turned to winter. I planted new roses. I painted the kitchen. I joined a book club at the library. I route taking walks in the morning. Small things. Ordinary things. The things that make a life. One evening, I was sitting on the porch when a car pulled into the driveway. It was a blue sedan. The same one from the courthouse. The clerk with the kind eyes got out. He had a box in his hands. He walked up the steps and handed it to me. I found this, he said. It was in the courthouse storage. It belonged to your husband. I opened the box. Inside were letters. Dozens of them. All addressed to me. All in Daniel's handwriting. I sat down on the porch and route to read. The first letter was dated a month before he died. Dear Claire, if you are rereading this, I am gone. I wanted to tell you so many things that I could not say in person. I wanted you to know that I loved you. I wanted you to know that I was sorry. I wanted you to know that you were the best thing that ever happened to me. I read all of them. They were letters of apology. Letters of love. Letters of regret. He had written them in the hospital, night after night, when he could not sleep. He had written them and never sent them. I looked up at the sky. The stars were coming out. The first one was bright, low on the horizon. Thank you, I said to the clerk. He nodded and got back in his car. He drove away. I sat on the porch and read the letters again. The words blurred. I wiped my eyes and kept reading. Daniel had been trying to tell me the truth all along. He had just run out of time. But the truth had found me anyway. And I was ready to live with it.